For this last demonstration, I'd like to show you how to use the clip area in order to create a magnification on the canvas. So as I click on the canvas here, you can see I'm magnifying in on the baby's little face. And when you click off of it, it goes away. So the way this works is that once everything's been set up, the first thing I'm doing is calling the function to initialize. And that basically just draws the image on the canvas and does a little setup for me. Then as the canvas is clicked, if it's flagged as magnified, it calls that init function again. Otherwise, it calls the magnify function. So let's start by taking a look at the init function so you can see how everything is originally set up. So here at the top, I have some variables set up: canvas, image, context, data URL, and is magnified. So the first thing that's happening on the init function is that the image is being set up. And of course, I've created it up here at the top and then given it a source down here, just as you've seen in many of the other demos. Once that image loads, then I can draw the image to the canvas at the 0, 0 position. I'm going to break into a debugging session here in a moment so that you'll get to see what comes of this data URL. Now, once I've drawn that image onto the context, I can call the toDataURL function in order to get the data URL or the binary information about that image. Now, I'm doing this in order to set aside the information about this image so that when I go to magnify, I don't have to load that image again. I've already got it available. Just real quick, let's examine the data URL variable so you can see what shows up in there. So as the call to toDataURL is called, now you can see that there's URL data in here that acts as the instructions in order to create that image. So once all that runs, I'm setting is magnified equal to false. Now, when I go to magnify the canvas, the first thing that I want to do is call context.save. What that allows me to do is create the clip area, render the image into the clip area after I've scaled it up a little bit. And then once that's done, give it a little bit of flourish so it looks like a magnifying glass. So here I'm setting up some basic defaults, line width, and the information about the shadow that I want to occur on the area. So again, if I run it, you can see that I've stroked the arc, it's got a shadow, and the same with the handle. So I want all of that to show up for the handle as well as the outside of the magnifying glass. But what I want to do next is call context.save again, because now I want to create a clip area where I can render in that image scaled up and then go back to the previous state in order to add in the stroke. But the call to context.save here ensures that when I go to redraw the canvas, the shadow information isn't applied to the canvas as a whole. So calling context.save again, at this point, it narrows it down to what I'll be doing with the clip area, call begin path, and then move to 230 location. And so at this point, I'm drawing the handle of the magnifying glass. Line 2, 285, and call stroke. Next, I'm calling begin path so I can create the arc. Once that arc is established, call clip, and then I can create the magnified version of that image. So here I'm creating a new image, and now the image information that I set aside into data URL is what I'm setting as the source for the magnified image. Now I don't need to wait for this one to load because all the data is already there. Then I can scale the canvas to 150% and then draw in the image, adding in the X and Y offsets so it shows up in the right place. Then here I have a call to restore, which resets the canvas back to the point to before I called context.save here. And the reason I'm doing that is because now what I want to do is draw that arc in the same dimensions once again and call stroke. If I hadn't done that, the stroke to the arc would be half as wide and it wouldn't look as good because it wouldn't be anti-aliased. So then I stroke the arc once again and then make another call to restore so that all the defaults that I set up here for the shadows don't end up getting applied to the background image when it's re-rendered when the call to init happens once again. And I set magnified equals to true. And so now, as the canvas is being clicked on it, it knows that if it's magnified, it needs to call the init function. And if it's not magnified, it calls the magnify function. So by carefully controlling what's happening within your canvas, you can create clip areas, which will restrict the area on the canvas where you'll render shapes, images, and drawings. And then you can back out of that and continue to add more to your canvas.